Hello, my loves. Okay, we are live. Let's start the recording. How are we doing today, loves? How is your week going? How is your Wednesday going? Let me just get a quick pull up here so I can see your comments. Where is she? There we are. Okay, turning the volume down now because no one needs that. Okay, welcome to this week's episode of Align and Allow. We are at episode 20 already. Can you believe it? I certainly cannot. 20 is like my lucky number. I just want to give you that heads up right now. So this is going to be a very fun episode. We'll see what happens after this, but this is kind of like a culmination of everything that we've been talking about up until this point. So if this is the first episode that you're watching, welcome. You've picked a great one to start off with. If you are catching up on some episodes, you're like, I wonder which one I should listen to. This one's a good one. This one is going to be really, really good. So if you are new here to Align and Allow in general, welcome. Align and Allow is your weekly mini morning show, as I like to call it, your weekly training series where we talk about all things doing less, determining your aligned way of working, and receiving your next level results as you allow more abundance into your life by doing less, okay? On this series, we talk practical coaching tips, so actually things that you can implement and take with you for quick and easy wins, mindset shifts around how you're working, how you want to be working, how you create more time, and proven and tested, I was going to say tried and tested techniques that will actually allow you to be in alignment across all areas of your life. But what it really starts with is work. And one of the reasons why we talk so much here about how are you working? How are you being productive? How are you tapping into focus and momentum is because work is such a massive part of your life. It takes up 1/3 of your time. And so the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. I love that mantra. One of my mentors from a couple of years ago, back when I was doing my yoga teacher training, taught me that. And he said it all the time, and it has stuck with me ever since. And it is true. The way you show up to do one thing is the way you show up to do everything. So if you're showing up in stress, overwhelm, overworking, that's going to be a theme that plays out across all areas of your life. And when you're in that energy of stress, overwhelm, anxiety, those are low vibrational emotions. And what we do here in these series is really focus on strategies and energy shifts and mindset shifts to get you back into the energy that you actually want to be in so that you can work in a way that feels really good, because that's where you're going to be in alignment and that's where you're going to get your results, right? So without further ado, we are going to dive into episode 20, creating your feminine flow blueprint to do less and receive more. If you're not sure what that is, don't you worry. I'm going to take your hand and we are going to walk through it together. Make sure you stick around for the end of this episode, or make sure if you're watching the replay, you fast forward to the end if you need to just kind of click through the main points, because I'm announcing a very, very special live event that is happening at the end of 2021. This is the final event that we're doing. It is incredible. It is free. It is just like a culmination of everything that we've been talking about on here, sort of like this episode today, but like times 1,000. So make sure that you either click on the link in the description right now, or you come back later or skip ahead to hear what this is all about, this free, exciting event happening later in this year. I guess that's really only a month left, but later this month, later in December. Okay, so this is what we're talking about today. Creating your feminine flow blueprint to do less and receive more. Here are our 3 main points. First, we're going to talk about what is feminine flow? What does that mean? Why are we using it? And why is this actually the missing piece for you to get the results that you've been working so hard towards, but have kind of been struggling to actually lock in, right? Like you are ambitious, you want to make things happen, but somehow it's not happening fast enough. Or you're like, hey, I'm clearly missing something. Like, what is this secret magical pill that everyone else seems to be taking? And I don't know what's going on, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about first. Then we're going to be talking about how the F you flow. So what is it? And now how do I do it, right? I want to give you this strategy piece so that you actually can start implementing these really key components to creating success, creating results, creating abundance, creating more ease and more time and more energy in your life right away. And it really doesn't have to be that hard. Okay. And we're going to be talking about that. And then finally, what you need to be focusing on to increase the so-called flow in what I love to call your work style. So again, the way that you work makes up a third of your life, or the time that you spend working makes up a third of your life. So we talk so much about lifestyle, and I'm here talking about time freedom lifestyle. I think I broke down everything about work style last week in the strategy episode. So make sure you go catch up on episode 19, because we're basically talking all about taking action and like, what are the strategy pieces you need to have in place? Because I'm your strategy girl. I love strategy. And I know so many of you here are so here for the strategy pieces as well. So that's a great episode to go take a listen to. But with this flow piece, why is this really the missing piece to understanding our work style is what we're going to be going into here. Anyways, I talked about work style in that last episode, but knowing what your work style is a really key part of incorporating this flow. And so we're going to be talking about that as well, and how you can really take this to the next level after listening to this short episode today, so that you can up level your results quickly. And we're going to go and sprinkle that into the very exciting announcement that's coming up too. Okay, so let's just dive into point number one. So what is feminine flow? What does that mean? Why is this the missing piece? Why am I talking about it all the time? Great questions. So number one, and I also just want to say, if you're catching this on the replay, comment #replay. I want to come and hang out with you later. I love being able to do that. If you're here live, even if you're hopping on just for a couple minutes, say hello. Let me know that you're here. Let me shout you out. If you have any questions, I will come and check on the questions in the chat in between, and then I'll definitely come back and check in on them later if you wrote them after the live was over. Okay, what is feminine flow? What does it mean? Why is it the missing piece? So feminine flow is the third step of the time freedom framework. And the time freedom framework is what I have created over the years. It's what I coach my clients, my one-on-one VIP clients through. And it goes through three main steps. The first is mindset. The second is action. And this third is flow. And those are basically the three prior, so to say, align and allow episodes. So if you just go back 3 episodes, we talk about mindset. Last week, we talked about action, which is structure, strategy, the pieces that you're putting into place physically, and then finally flow. And I like to put my own twist on this. And so I do call it feminine flow. And basically the reason why I use that word is because so much of how we have been taught to work is really based in this masculine energy, okay? The way that we've been shown and taught to show up in this public sphere of the work environment. Who created this space? Like, let's just be real for a quick second, okay? The public sphere of work was made for men initially, if we're going back into history, right? Women were meant to stay home. They were taking care of the domestic sphere, the home life, the cooking, the cleaning, the children, the childcare, all of that. And the men went out and worked in the world, right? And it's really important just to be really aware of this. And it doesn't need to be about pointing fingers or saying anything about anyone at this point in time. We are simply all part of this system and this structure now, okay? And it's important to be aware of it because it means that we are showing up in that space with that energy that that space was created with. Does that make sense? Let me know if that's clear to you. And so the reason why so many of us are in this hustle mentality, why we feel like we need to do more and create more and achieve more in order to feel really worthy, or in order to prove ourselves, or in order to be successful, is because that is the dominant way that we've been taught to work, okay? And the reason that that it's the masculine sphere is because a lot of those qualities are tied with masculine ways of working, right? So masculine ways of working really include, showing up consistently, creating momentum, sticking to a structure, having like a really rigid structure a lot of the times, having things to check off your to-do list, having clear goals, having a clear plan and direction. And all of those things are really freaking awesome, okay? We need those things in order to move ourselves forward. But if we are so strongly and so heavy in that masculine energy and we're only focusing on those things, then we almost cage ourselves in, okay? Like we're putting so much structure into how we're doing things that we're like wrapping ourselves up in like this big rope, and we're like tying ourselves to our own chair so we can't move forward, okay? And that's why we want to bring in the other side of the energy, the feminine energy. And disclaimer here, if this is the first time that you're listening to any of these episodes, you haven't heard me talk about this before. When I talk about masculine, feminine energies, it's not about gender. It's not about whether you identify as male or female. what it comes down to is we all have these energies within us, this yin and this yang, this masculine, this feminine, and it's about knowing what your personal custom balance is between those two, which is where you then tap into alignment, where you feel aligned in how you're showing up. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about that. And so when we're incorporating this feminine energy, it really is about saying, okay, how can we bring in feminine qualities into the way that we're working? Because everything is so heavy in the masculine. It's creating this constant stress and pressure and burnout society, right? This hustle hamster wheel, as I like to call it. And so when we bring in flow, I like to say it's feminine flow, because flow is a feminine quality in terms of how we're working. Okay. It's this, how can I lean back and bring in this fun playfulness? How can I be infusing what I'm creating with more creativity, or with more, I trust that things are working out and I'm letting things happen. And I see the big picture vision, as opposed to like needing to do everything right at the same time, right in the second, like, okay, what do I feel like doing? It's about being more guided with your intuitive side, that intuitive nature of how you're showing up. Okay. And I totally hear you if you're thinking, girl, you sound freaking insane right now. I, coming from a very, very heavy masculine energy and how I was taught to work and what I thought I needed to do to be successful, which is what led me to my own personal burnout. I totally hear you. You're like, you can't have fun in the way that you're working. Like, if you're making things fun, then like you're not taking it seriously enough. And so you're not going to get your results. Interesting if that's a thought that's coming up for you. Just take note of that. No judgment. Trust me, that's where I was. That's where so many of my clients come from too. But that is that heavy masculine energy that's determining how you think you need to be showing up. And it's keeping you in this one very strict and rigid way of working. Okay. So when we bring in flow, and again, flow being this third step of the time freedom framework, because we start with mindset, because we really want to address the mindset that's coming up in terms of, what I just said, like, why do I feel like I can't have fun in the way that I'm working? Why do I feel like fun and results don't go together? I don't know, maybe something to look into. Then action is really, how do I put the right pieces into place? I don't need to be doing the most. I don't need to have all these patchwork strategies, mixed together just so that I can feel like I'm covering all my bases. What's the strategy that's going to work for me? That's about clarifying your priorities, where you're going, your goals, all of that good stuff. Stick around if you're like, oh, I don't even know how to do that, because I'm going to tell you how to do that later. And then finally, flow is like, okay, now that I have like the mindset that I need to have in order to work the way that I want to work, this is tied to your work style. So like, let's say I want to have 4-day work weeks, but like my mindset says, fuck no, because like that feels scary. I need to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 to feel productive. Okay, we want to address your mindset and adjust your mindset so that it matches the work style that you want to have. Okay. Then we put that action piece into place, how you want to be working. And then flow is really saying, okay, how do I balance the two? How do I create structures that can guide me and not confine me, and have a mindset that supports the kind of work style that I want? And flow are really a mix of strategy and mindset work and embodiment work, I would say, that allow you and support you to show up in the way that you want to be showing up consistently. Okay. So this is what I hear so often, is that people in our audience, in our community, you loves, and then my clients are like, okay, I want to feel good on a consistent basis. Like, now that I know that this is possible for me, like, how do I make sure that like I can wake up in the morning and I'm not like overcome with dread and anxiety and like all the normal things that I've been living with for like the past X amount of years of my life, right? And so this is where feminine flow comes in, or flow comes into play, where you're really managing that day to day so that you are managing your mindset. And then the structures are really still supporting you and moving you forward. You have that momentum, you have that direction without it starting to tie you to your chair again, right? Does that make sense? I feel like I really went into that in great depth, but it was necessary just to lay the foundation for you. So feminine flow is really creating this guideline that allows you to adjust how you're showing up on a day-to-day basis. It's really, this is the key that makes whatever structure you have to be like that, you're able to implement it and that it's actually sustainable. Okay. If you don't have this part, it's almost like there's no leeway. There's no place to move or to adjust or to flow, quite literally, within this, like, okay, this is how it has to be. And that's where things break. That's where things get brittle, because we're not allowing things to move. Like, even when people, okay, this is my very limited engineering knowledge that I get from my brother, but even when people are building bridges, like the bridges are meant to have this buoyancy to it, even just slightly. Like if you're on like a really big bridge, even something like the Golden Gate Bridge, like it moves. It literally moves. Tall skyscraper buildings need to move so that they don't get to this brittle place where they have one little move on one side from like the earth, from their surroundings, and then they collapse. Okay. Like that's maybe an aggressive analogy, but that is the extent of my knowledge for that. And I really want that to be like a visual that's really clear in your head right now. Okay. So this is how we use flow to really adjust these dominant structures and create your new way of working. This is how alignment comes into play, because you're showing up in flow on a consistent basis. Okay. Point number 2, what are the pieces of the strategy? How the F do you flow? So let's talk about creating your feminine flow blueprint. And I call this your feminine flow blueprint. This is this is something that I do on free calls that I offer from time to time. These are always very exclusive. There's always only a handful of these, but they're called feminine flow blueprint calls. And literally we create your feminine flow blueprint on these calls. And it's very streamlined and focused in on this third step of the time freedom framework of like, okay, how do I make these parts over here, this structure, this like goal that I want to create work so that it happens in a way that feels really good. Okay. And the number one thing that I want to give you right now, because this is really a starting point to laying the foundation for your for your feminine flow blueprint. And that is bringing your body back into the equation of how you are working. Okay. This is a huge, massive core factor, foundational layer that you need to be doing if you want to incorporate this flow. And the reason, again, why you want to incorporate this flow is because it's going to allow your structures to work better. It's going to allow you to manage your mindset more easily, and it's going to allow you to get you the results that you are looking for faster, more effortlessly, and honestly, with more enjoyment in the process, right? So there's many, many ways that I do this in my coaching. And again, stay tuned for the end, because I'm going to be sharing something very cool, which is how you can get more information on this and like free information, incorporate this on another level. But some ways that I do this in my coaching is through cycle syncing. I love using the cosmos and moon magic, seasonal living, all of these very feminine based knowledge systems that really allow us to pair off this masculine heavy energy in the way that we're working, create more of this balance, because we're using these natural flows and systems that are already existing in our world, in our environment, in our space, in our surroundings, in our energies, that allow us to then kind of adapt to those, as opposed to having these strict structures that are kind of created externally. These flow cycles come from inside of us. These are things that our bodies are naturally attuned to, kind of like our inner clock. Okay. So these are divine feminine ways of working, divine feminine knowledge systems. And that's why I love to incorporate the term feminine flow into flow, even though we could very easily just call it flow, because it is the feminine way of working. It's how do we bring the feminine back into the equation? How do we work productively through the art of this feminine knowledge systems, right? And so incorporating play and fun is a great way to do that. And that's where I really encourage you to start with your connection to your body, and start with this very, very simple question. How connected do you feel to your body right now? And tell me in the comments on a scale of 1 to 10, what that is for you. Okay. Like, how connected do you feel to your body right now on a scale of 1 to 10? What is that relationship like? How are you talking to yourself? Do you know what your tell signs are when you're getting tired? Do you know when you need to rest? Do you know what productivity feels like? Or like, yeah, I'm ready to freaking focus and like grind it out because it feels good. Like it's grinding in an aligned way. Let's call it that, right? And doesn't matter where you are on the scale, you could say that I have feel like you have a good relationship to your body. I've had this happen tons of times in guest events, and like where I've been speaking in other masterminds or master classes, or even with clients, where they'll say, yeah, I feel like I'm like a 7 or maybe a 6, maybe even an 8 connection wise to my body. And then we'll actually dive into things and I'm like, ooh, like I am connected to my body because I'm healthy. And that was definitely me. I was like, I do yoga and I work out consistently and I eat relatively well. And I'm very health conscious about like, how do I make my meals so that they're balanced and like da 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 da. But the connection to my body on that emotional level, on the, okay, how am I working and like what's alignment feel like for me and what's the clarity that I can tap into and where I'm going and what I want to be doing. No, that's a very different level of that connection, right? So once just give yourself that number. What's that gut response on that scale of 1 to 10? And then I really encourage you to practice tuning in every morning before you start to work. Just have a quick little chat with yourself, with your body. How am I feeling today? Do I feel productive? Do I feel motivated? Do I feel maybe a little bit more tired? And then how can you honor that in a very, very, very small way? Doesn't need to be big. Don't change your whole schedule. Don't change your day. Make it small, make it tiny. Okay, cool. I'm feeling a little bit blah today. Okay, what do I like to do when I feel blah? Do I like to call a friend? Do I want to get out for a walk? Maybe do like a fun like workout class. What feels good to you? Maybe you want to get creative and paint something. And then try and honor that in a very, very small way. That can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, short and sweet. Just give yourself space to honor what is coming up for your body. Does that make sense? Let me know if the language around that makes sense too, because if we're not used to having that connection, saying something like, oh, honoring my body, like what the F, like, what does that mean, right? Okay, that was point number 2. Point number 3, and then we're going to wrap it up. So what are you supposed to focus on to increase more of this flow in your life? So we've talked about the body. That's one thing. And then we want to talk about your work style, right? The body is great because it's a very easy way for you to start tuning in. But if your mindset is not in the right place, so again, like we just talked about, if you're thinking like, I can't have fun, or if I listen to my body, like that's, it's weak, it means that I don't care enough, or like I just said before, I didn't finish that thought, I've got off track. If I'm going to have fun with this, like then I won't get the results that I want. If those kind of mindset things are coming up, or you're feeling like you're procrastinating a lot, or everything needs to be perfect before you start, or you just never feel like you're ready, you can't get momentum going, you're getting frustrated with yourself. If those mindset things are coming up, and then you're also like, ooh, I don't know if my strategy is right. Like I'm still looking for the right strategy. And like my to-do list is like a million strategies patchwork together, right? Like all of these things. And I know that you're thinking them because I was thinking them too. I'm like, give me this freebie and give me this calendar strategy and tell me how to plan my social media content and give me the template for that and, right? So the checking in with the body is a great practice to start. And I highly encourage you start doing that. But if the other 2 parts aren't in place, like we really need mindset, action, and flow to all be working together in order for you to really lock in the results of the time freedom framework, right? So if you want to have more time, if you want to be able to take time for things that you love and enjoy outside of work, if you want to feel like you're really not just feel, but actually be moving towards that next level goal that you have, whether that's in your life, in your business, in your work, and actually start seeing results, like we need these 3 pieces to be all together working in place, right? And that's why I'm so excited to be announcing this very special final live event of 2021, which is a free masterclass online called Banish the Burden of Time. We all feel this. We all feel like we're running out of time, right? We feel like we're behind. We feel like we're not where we're meant to be in our lives. We feel like we're playing catch up. We feel like there's never enough time to get all the things done that we want to get done. And really, it sucks. It sucks living in this constant state of stress because we are always mentally tied up in the next thing. We never feel like there's enough of it, right? And so if that's how you're feeling, if you're feeling this burden of not having enough time, and then everything really that goes along with that, right? So if you feel the burden of not having enough time, then most likely there's a lot of other things that you're doing or are frustrated with that are creating this reality for you, right? Like you're frustrated because you're procrastinating. Like there's this burden of procrastination or perfectionism or the expectation of what you should be doing at this point in your life, or what your parents are expecting of you, or of what your friend group is expecting of you or your partner. So there's kind of like those burden things that are coming up. And then you're thinking, okay, I mean, I took the leap to start my business, or I'm starting this new job where I'm like secretly applying for new jobs, or I really want to make more time for myself, but I feel guilty because I'm a mom and I have, my kids, they need to come first, but like I'm drowning over here. Like all of those things are really stemming from this one major point of not feeling like you have enough time. Okay. And so what we're really going to be doing in this masterclass is breaking down how you can shift this. How do you shift out of this burden of not having enough time? How do we come into a place of time freedom? And I'm literally going to be breaking down for you the time freedom framework. So the mindset, the action, and the flow in great detail. Like we've barely grazed the surface here today. And I'm really going to be going into detail on how do you set this up for yourself. We're going to be going into actual mindset shifts. So I mentioned a couple right now. I mentioned a couple before. You get to be there live with me, get some hot seat coaching along with that as well to say, hey, yeah, I have this mindset. Okay, cool. Let's shift it right now together. And guess what? You're not alone. There's going to be a whole handful of people who are also going to be listening to this, who are going to have the same mindset as you, who just aren't going to feel like they can share it. So you sharing where you're at is going to be incredibly helpful as well. So what we're going to be doing then, whether you're an entrepreneur, a working parent, or a professional, is going through this framework, like I said, in so much more detail, setting up the strategy part, and then really incorporating that with flow. They all really need to work together. So you will be learning how to identify procrastination, perfectionism, overworking, and how to actually banish that, how to banish the busyness, how to banish the lack of time, so that you can really start working in a way that allows you to have more time for living your life. Okay. I'm going to be teaching you the only structures and strategies that you actually need to take clear and aligned action towards locking in your next level goal, whether that's in your business, your job, in your personal life. Again, whether you want to create your business, launch a course, climb the corporate ladder, switch jobs, start a side hustle. Maybe you want to run a marathon. Maybe you just want to have more time for yourself. Again, as a working parent, you're like, I just need like a morning routine where I have my space, but like, how do I do that? Because I already don't have time, right? And I'm actually going to show you and give you the framework, the strategy, and the mindset pieces to finally start expanding your time. That is like my purpose and my mission. I'm here to give you more time. I'm here to teach you how to give that to yourself so that you can start working 4-day weeks, so that you can take Fridays off, so that you can be there for pickup after school or bedtime stories, or on the flip side, have much more energy, have the energy to get work done with more ease and actually enjoy the process of being in it, right? So I'm super, super excited to be able to share that with you. And one thing that I just want to say really quickly too, before we log off, because we've been here for a hot second, this is what I hear a lot, and we're going to be addressing this as well in the masterclass. But so many people are like, I just don't have time to even like do this right now. Like maybe at one point in the future, I'll take this masterclass again. This is the only time it's happening, FYI. So I would very highly recommend you get on it right now. Or even with people who are like, oh, I want to work with you, but like right now is not the right time, or I want to join the academy, but not right now. Listen up. There is never going to be a right time for you to do anything. Okay. There's always going to be something that comes up. There's always going to be something that gets in the way. The question right now for you to ask yourself is, am I ready to create more time for myself? Because in order to create more, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg kind of scenario, like what comes first? In order to create more time, you first need to make a little bit of time. Okay. These are 60 minutes. This masterclass is 60 minutes, and you get to ask all your questions. You get to listen to other people ask their questions. You get this framework, you get the full strategy. Like this is 60 minutes of your life that are going to be so well spent, especially the fact that it's happening, by the way, on December 2nd. That might be the best time you spend on yourself all holiday season, right? Because there's probably a lot going on. So gift yourself these 60 minutes to be here with me together. If you need to be, doing things in the background, that's okay. But I highly recommend you grab your piece of paper, your notebook, your pen, and you be taking notes, because literally when you want to create more time, you need to first show up and make some time to start doing that. Okay. Like I said, there's never going to be a perfect time, but if you're feeling like, oh, I can't do it now, but maybe next year, or maybe the next time, like I said, it's not going to happen again, but maybe that's the thought process that's going on for you. I really, really encourage you to challenge yourself on that and say like, why do I feel like this isn't the right time? Like, why am I creating this? Am I making an excuse? Is there fear coming up of some sort? Like, do I feel fearful that I'm not ready for this yet? Am I scared of what will happen if I do have time? Like, what if I'm not busy anymore? Like, that's a big one, right? So if that's something that's coming up for you, I really encourage you to take the leap. Take the leap and sign up, register for this masterclass. It's free. You get a front row seat to some hot seat coaching as well, to this incredible strategy. I've never shared this strategy before, by the way, in this great detail in a masterclass. So you're getting like some seriously hot info. And I'm just announcing this now for the first time right now as well. But there's going to be one intention intensive, which is my 1 week one-on-one coaching package that you have the chance to win if you show up live. Okay. So there's going to be some more information coming out on this today. I want to wrap this up so that this doesn't get too long. But I am so excited to be able to offer this to you. I'm so excited to be able to share this framework with you for the first time in this great of detail. So make sure you click the link in the description, in the show notes, in the email, depending on where you're listening to this live or in the replay. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Reach out with any questions that you have. I'm so here to answer all of them. This masterclass is going to be so much fun. And like I said, it's going to be like that little relief that you're going to get in a busy holiday season. And we're going to have fun together. Like, we love having fun together. That's what we're here to do. That's what alignment is all about. So I cannot wait to see you there. I wish you a lovely rest of your Wednesday, my loves, and I will see you next week.